18 to 65 years old will be allowed to enter malls in NCR. The mayors arrived at the decision after consulting experts from the Philippine Pediatric Society. Meanwhile, those aged 66 and up are also not allowed inside malls, since they belong to the vulnerable sector and are at risk of developing complications brought about by the coronavirus. We have some breaking news. Unemployment rate rocked at 8.7% in October. This is equivalent to 3.8 million adult Filipinos who were jobless. Highest unemployment rate was recorded in Metro Manila, while the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region recorded the lowest. The evaluation of incoming COVID-19 vaccines in the country may now be done as quickly as 21 days. This after the FDA was cleared to grant emergency use authorization, or EUA, to COVID-19 vaccines that may soon be available in the Philippines. DOH spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergeres says the issuance of EUAs would speed up the process of approving new vaccines from 6 months to just about 3 weeks.
We're looking at about 21 days to 40 days in total para lang po ma-evaluate ng buo ito po mga mag-a-apply dito sa ating bansa. And it can also be shortened, specifically kung may EUA na nga po from other countries yung ating produkto na ipapasok, and also kung kumpleto po ang maisusumite na requirements sa atin para mas mabilis ang proseso.
Pfizer and Moderna are among the pharmaceutical firms that have already applied for EUAs for their vaccines before health regulators in the West. In fact, the UK has become the first country to authorize Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, leaping ahead of the United States. But former NTF Special Advisor Tony Leachon says the Philippines is in a better position to secure Chinese drugs over the ones produced by American pharmaceutical firms. Leachon says the US is still experiencing a surge in cases, so their government might develop vaccine nationalism and focus on inoculating the American population first.
I'm putting my bet right now on the Chinese vaccines, Sinopharm and Sinovac, na matugunan yung ating supply. I don't think mabibigyan tayo ng Pfizer Moderna right away. I think dapat talagang meron tayong pag-asa, sa aking palagay ay yung Astra sana, kung matapos sila earlier. Ang projection ko nun, meron tayo sa second quarter of next year. Kasi affordable siya, madali siyang natin, mura siya. Kaya I think yung tama yung business sector sa pagkuha kagad sa kanya, nagkaroon lang ng king. Ngayon, kung ito daw Sinopharm and Sinovac, may magagandang klaseng mga Chinese products. Kung may lalabas nila yung kanilang regulatory document, ito yung pag-asa nating mailabas ng earlier.
Speaking of Chinese vaccines, China's Vice Premier Sun Chunlan reports that their vaccine developers have made major progress, with 5 vaccines having entered phase 3 clinical trials. Sun says emergency use and preparation for the production of these vaccines are, quote, progressing smoothly. The Chinese official called on developers to carry out their clinical trials with a scientific and rigorous approach to ensure that they comply with relevant regulations and international standards. Over in Russia, President Vladimir Putin has ordered a large-scale vaccination program as early as next week. Putin says Russia will produce 2 million vaccine doses over the next few days. He adds that teachers and doctors should be the first in line to get the country's flagship Sputnik V vaccine. Putin gave the order on Wednesday just as Russia registered 589 new deaths from the coronavirus. And just like Putin, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla is gaining more confidence that the pandemic may soon become a thing of the past. Bourla says he's confident that by the end of 2021, there would be more vaccine doses than required to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Pfizer official reminded governments that it's still not time to completely relax other measures imposed to limit the transmission of the virus.
Is that the government needs to make sure that, given the pressure, open the economy, should not make the mistake, because now we have a vaccine, let's relax immediately the other measures. I think it will be important that they will use the vaccine as one tool in controlling this disease. Undeniable is going to be likely the most effective, most permanent impact, but there will be one of them in the beginning, and the time that we'll have to go back to, we can go back to normality is not far away, but definitely is not now. So let's make sure that we don't do this mistake.
The World Health Organization echoes this sentiment, as Executive Director Mike Ryan says COVID-19 shots will not come early enough to prevent a short-term surge in infections. He says the world is still at risk of heightened transmission in the next 3 to 6 months. This means everyone should still maintain social distancing and respect other measures set to restrict the deadly spread of the virus. We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. With the 2022 elections fast approaching, two stalwarts of PDP-Laban have assumed top posts in their party. Senator Manny Pacquiao is now president of PDP-Laban, taking the reins from Senator Coco Pimentel, who is now the party's executive vice chairman. PDP-Laban Executive Director Ron Munsayak says Pimentel will now work very closely with the party's chairman, President Duterte himself. Meanwhile, House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco is PDP-Laban's new executive vice president. Munsayak also confirmed that the party is now gearing up for the next national elections. Recall that Pacquiao's first senatorial term will end in 2022, giving him an opportunity to either run for re-election or seek higher office. The National Intelligence Coordinating Agency is flagging a supposed rise in the number of organizations supporting and covering for the new People's Army. NICA Director General Alex Monteagudo says President Duterte is still keen on putting an end to the communist insurgency in the Philippines. But he says this also entails determining and shutting down the groups that are operating as fronts for the Red Army.
Comparatively, kung i-compare mo na 1980s, ang layo po, mababa na po ang numero ng mga armadong grupo ng People's Army. Ang lumakas po sa kanila yung mga front organizations. Malayong-malayo po ang milyon na po ang mga membro ng kanilang front organizations. Kaya lang, ganito po ang problema. Sa loob ng 52 years, hindi pa po nawawala ang mga NPA.
Meanwhile, Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate is flagging possible long-term effects of the Duterte administration's red-tagging efforts against the Makabayan Bloc. Recall that several government officials, including President Duterte himself, have categorically tagged the Makabayan Bloc as a front organization for the CPP-NPA. Zarate says he doesn't mind the personal attacks, but he is wary of the long-term impact of the government's red tagging of its critics. The lawmaker also said that the government's strategy of discrediting the opposition may have far-reaching effects and may even resonate up to the upcoming 2022 elections.
And we are not taking this lightly. Pinag-aaralan namin ito, pinaghahandaan, at siyempre ang mensahe naman namin sa mamamayan, no? At this point, it may appear na ang target nila is ang Makabayan Bloc, but eventually, talagang they will weaponize, for example, itong terror law para tugisin ang lahat na kritiko ng Duterte administration dahil sa tingin namin, may kinalaman din ito sa 2022 election, no? Gusto nilang pilayan, no, ang isang ang opposition, at the progressive group will certainly work for the opposition sa 2022, no? At pag napila yan, pwede nilang pilayin talaga ang buong opposition and they can extend their hold to power beyond 2022.
Slain NPA medic Jevilyn Cullamat is set to be laid to rest at 12 noon today. Jevilyn, the daughter of Bayan Muna Party List Representative Euphemia Cullamat, was killed in a clash between the Philippine Army and the NPA last week. Now, the Human Rights Commission says it will be looking into the case of Cullamat, as her mother filed a complaint alleging that the military desecrated the remains of the 22-year-old Red fighter. In a letter to the CHR chairperson, Chito Gascon, Euphemia claims that Jevilyn's body was, quote, ruthlessly and crassly paraded and displayed as if it were a trophy won by soldiers, who even posed for picture with Cullamat's dead body. CHR spokesperson Jevilyn says the Commission's regional office in Caraga has already launched an investigation into the case of Jevilyn. The IACT reminds the public to refrain from riding colorum vehicles because uninsured vehicles are, quote, putting the public at a higher risk. This as the Council resumes its crackdown on colorum vehicles. To give us the latest update on the ground, we have Justine Punsalang. She's reporting live from the Pasay-Makati boundary. Good morning, Justine.
The Interagency Council for Traffic, or IACT, is once again apprehending colorum vehicles. This morning, they are at the Pasay-Makati boundary where 2 vehicles were already apprehended. One of the apprehended is a Montero Sport which carries passengers despite being a private vehicle. The driver admitted that his passengers pay 150 pesos for a short ride from Bikutan to Pasay. The other vehicle is a shuttle service of Pag-ibig. Although the van had markings stating that it serves Pag-ibig, the driver, however, was not able to produce a contract of lease. IACT team leader retired Colonel Jose Manuel Bonivi explained that a contract of lease is a notarized agreement between the owner of the vehicle and the company it serves. Bonivi explained that there are just 3 basic requirements to become a shuttle service: a contract of lease, insurance policies for the passengers, and body vehicle markings. The IACT explained that passengers are at risk whenever riding colorum vehicles because should there be an accident, they are not covered by an insurance policy. Apprehended vehicles will be impounded for 3 months at the LTFRB office in Pampanga. In addition, there will be a 200,000 peso fine for colorum vans as well as the Montero Sport from today. The IACT operation is still ongoing at the moment. However, the IACT expressed concern that once they apprehend one vehicle, it is actually harder to catch other vehicles. They explained that the drivers apparently have other means of communication such as messaging groups and radios to notify their fellow drivers, and these drivers in turn find other routes to evade apprehension.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. And you can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.